Good evening, good evening, good evening. And thank you for joining me on another episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast and Podcast. Today's guest, you definitely want to tune into. So I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go out there and share this show. Someone is going to want to hear this message today because we are going to be speaking to someone who is right in the heart, right in the middle of everything that's going on in the world. Mr. Antonio Darris. Now he is a musician, a lyricist, a singer, but he was born in Chicago, Illinois, and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Like I said, he's right in the heart of everything that's going on in the world, and we're going to talk about that today. Darris has been quite aware of the world around him and acquires life as a muse for his music. So we're going to talk about how he's the youngest of 5 children to a single mother and raised by his grandmother, Minnie. Antonio grew up watching the father figure practice music and performing at gigs around the city. With life as his muse and turning to music as his escape, Antonio has grown to find his sound in social conscious lyrical content. Welcome, Darris. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm excited, Antonio. I'm excited to have you here. Now, when I read your bio, what stood out to me was Minneapolis. I knew you had a view. And then when we started talking about or looking at some of the social areas of your music, you started with the change of two Americas. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what are you passionate about?
Well, first, I guess if I'm going to describe myself, I'm going to put myself in the time and place that we're in. I'm a Black man, who grew up not one of the best lives. I know the struggles. I've seen, what's going on throughout my life, and you just, as you get older, you just, you want to do better. You want to be a better person. I'm, I just, I don't, I just, I'm nervous. I'm at a loss for words because everything that goes on around me has become a part of me, if that means anything to you. And when I say with the times now, everything when we were growing up was don't go over here. Don't do this, don't do that. And you would think as a child growing up that things would change and your kids wouldn't have to see it. And my kids are seeing that. And that's what drives me to write now more toward the music because I want my kids and I want, just change. We want change. Bottom line, change.
Are you one of those people that feels hopeful though that change will arrive at some point in time? Or are you one of those people who just says, oh, this is the way it is, this is America, and that's it?
No, I believe one day we'll be on one accord. I believe one day we truly will be on one accord, and that's when we start teaching one another. We can't turn a blind eye to each other anymore and act like, if you know a person don't know, it's not our problem. It's our problem. And when I say our problem, I'm talking about our people. We have to start teaching ours. I watched a show the other day and a young lady was being interviewed about starting up a school teaching Black history. That's important. So I do believe that one day we will, but we have to, become on one accord.
Mm-hmm. So how do you, in your opinion, feel that we do that?
We got to start listening. We got to put aside all of the brainwashing that they've taught us over the last 400 years. And that is, the jealousy, the envy, just all of the things that make it where we as a people can't make it to the next level. We sit back and we watch every other nationality around us. We watch them make it. We watch them work together. We watch them come together. But, I'm with great hope now that we stay on the course And that, I think that's what I've seen throughout my lifetime. You know, we start the chorus, and then once things get good, we step back off the gas, you know, and then something happen, and then we step on it again. I think we got to keep our feet on it. We got to keep our feet on the gas.
I hear what you're saying, and I hear that as a common thread from a lot of Black people that I speak to. And what I always, you know, because we definitely stop, and I agree with you on that. But to me, I also feel it's usually because of something that comes in and happens and occurs to make, I mean, just look at Black Wall Street. You know, we would have continued on that same path, on that same trajectory, had not people came in and burned it down. So every time we try to make, you know, I'm the president of the Black Chamber of Commerce here in Long Beach. So I have this conversation with a lot of different people because we look at it and go, well, we never finish, we never work together, we never do this. But every time we try to make that first step, other people come in and literally stop us.
And now that's true. Now, see, I didn't go there. You know, I wanted to just kind of address us as a people, what we, you know, I see as a person. But now if we go to the other side, there's so much that could be said about that. You know, I ask my kids, the history that you have learned throughout your lifetime, what have you learned? And everything they tell us that they've learned is really not relevant to us as a people. And then when you do speak on what is relevant to us as a people, then that's when you start hearing the, you know, the backlash or the back, you know, oh, that was then. Well, that was then and that is now, just in different forms and ways. They took off the heavy chains and put on the invisible chains. So, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. When we do get to a certain point, we do get knocked down. And there's truth to that, you know, so.
No, I hear you, and I don't want to be, I don't want to generalize or just say every time, but it tends to be what happens, especially in this world in America. But the other side of that I see, like you mentioned, is that we do have to teach our young people more about the past. Because yes, I agree that they took off the physical chains and they put on the invisible chains, but I also know that based on years and years and years of wealth that has been accumulated through other races, even if with or without the chains, we still have years to which we have to come up to basically the resources and the wealth that other nationalities have. You know, we're already, you know, under the gun, as they would say. We're already at a loss.
And yeah, I had a conversation with my kids and I was telling them, I said, you know, I'm not a historian, you know, I'm not a person who could sit down and break facts down to you, but when it's something that I'm interested in, I will, you know, look into it and study about it. And I was telling my kids because, you know, they're like, Dad, but you know, that was so long ago. I said, no, I said, if you take the years that we've been free out of civilization, that's not even what, you know, we're still babies in that, you know, trying to get to, like you say, they're already here. We're here trying to get up there. So our fight is, it's a way harder fight. You know, our fight is, and people seem like they say, you know, oh, well, as if they don't understand. They understand it, they see it. And that's what I talk about, the blind eye. I mean, people, it's easy to turn the blind eye.
The one thing that I've seen, at least I saw it in 2020, right after the George Floyd tragedy, that, and I'm 45, mind you, so let me just, I'm not a 12-year-old or 20-year-old, like I didn't just get into this game. But one of the things that I saw that was different in 2020 that I didn't see any other time was that there were so many white people that came up to me. I was asked to speak on so many different panels where they would literally sit there and say, oh, Sharifah, I didn't know. And my question, my response to them was always, how could you not know? You know, it's not that they didn't know that this was occurring. And we've had this conversation. This is not a knock on anybody, but it's that it didn't affect your world. You know, what happened didn't matter because your world was okay. You lived in this bubble where you didn't have to deal with all these things, and now the entire world is dealing with what's going on in the world. So to me, I felt that that was the difference. What have you seen, Antonio?
I get more of them speaking now. I mean, it's the question is it a front or is it real?
Mhm.
You know, and some people you could tell they're genuine. You could tell, you know, they really mean it. But then, you know, there's the ones you look at and you're like, okay. What I've seen though in 2020 was I see a more sense of people wanting to be community.
Mhm.
That's what I mean. I see now how they want to be community, because some people understanding of what they think should be done can be offensive and wrong. And then there's some that, you know, so once again with the teaching, I mean, if we start teaching not just art, but others, and the ones, especially the ones that say, oh, I didn't know. Well, let me take this time to tell you since you didn't know. Or let me just refreshing you just in case you forgot. But, you know, just take the time and not be offensive. That's the one thing. Let me be totally honest. I have taken from 2020 personally not to get offended over everything. You know, and you see that, I see that with our youth. I see that with the older, the elderly. You know, it's different when we was growing up. You say, hello, ma'am. You know, they said hello. Nowadays, you say hello. You might, like I said, just a little different now since 2020. But, you know, they might give you that look. I still get the shun with the purses or, you know, whatever it may be, a door lock, you know, so.
No, I know what you mean because I'm looking at you and I'm not judging you, but I can see how the rest of the world might see you had they not known you or whatever. People just judge. And like when people look at me, I talk about this all the time. It's one of my favorite topics. Like I'll be out somewhere. I remember one time in particular, I was in an elevator and I was standing in the elevator and this white gentleman, he just was. I mean, that's what he was. Okay. I didn't make him be a white gentleman. He was. But he walked into the elevator and I'm standing there and he's like, why are you looking so mad? Why don't you smile? And I'm like, dude, like I'm in an elevator. Why am I? You know what I mean? Like, but he saw me as an angry woman. That's how he saw me. Now you just add in race. When he walks in immediately, now I'm an angry Black woman. And I'm like, all I wanted to do, all I'm doing is standing in the elevator. You know, I don't even know you. We're not having a conversation, but it's a certain image that people see and they still have a certain fear. And a lot of people will say, and I've heard this from many people of different races, is that the fear is that when we as Black people get to a certain level or a certain point, we will do to them what they have done to us. So there's still a fear of, oh my God, like what are they really going to do to us? And to me, that's guilt.
Yeah. I know. I just quick out. I remember. I can recall. I mean, like my first real experience dealing with that, and that was the door lock. We used to have this thing here called the Taste of Minnesota, and you know, me and my cousins, then we were heading over to and we had parked in the parking lot, and I want to say this was like my first real full year in Minnesota. And we walked from the corner and stepped down. And of course, the car was coming. The lady looked up and all we heard was clunk, clunk, clunk. And I looked at my cousin because I had never, you know, witnessed that before. And I was like, yo, did she just lock all the doors? And we're kids, of course, you know, but it was me coming here for the, you know, from Chicago, the community that I grew up in, of course, was all Black. And then coming here to more of an area that was mixed culture, you know, I was like, whoa, okay, this is cool. But to have that happen, I was like, oh, I had to call my grandmama like, hey, something ain't right here.
Yes.
So the experience in it, it's lasting. It's not something what people really need to understand. I mean, seriously, the experience ain't something that just go away in the next 2 or 3 minutes. An experience that you have, these are lifetime experiences that will scar a person if they don't deal with it.
Right.
So, but
right. Well, I can have this conversation with you all day, Antonio, and I haven't even gotten into the music. That's what we were here to talk about. When we started talking about all of it, I'm like, this is good. I can have this conversation with this guy. But what I wanted to do, you have a new song out, and I wanted to play it because just based on the song, it's kind of how I went in this direction. But I want everyone else to know what we're talking about. So your new song is Paradox, correct?
Correct.
So we're going to play a little song. We're gonna play. Yeah, like my screen is beautiful.
For minimum wage.
Let's see, because I love the introduction.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, good morning. Good morning. How you doing? Good, man. Ready to get the day going.
Yeah, Tony, I got some bad news for you, man.
Really?
Yeah. I'm gonna have to let you go, buddy.
Oh, man, there ain't nothing I could do, nothing at all.
Nothing, brother.
All right, well, just if things pick up, man, will you please let me
I
know?
will. When things pick up, I will definitely let you know.
Okay.
All right?
All right.
Sorry, buddy.
All right, man. Thanks, man.
All right, man.
Appreciate it. Damn, I lost my job. I ain't got no check coming in. Ain't got no job. Qualified for the COVID. What I do? Ain't got no job. I'm losing my mind. Somebody better catch it. I'm losing control. Stuck in this paradox of contradiction. Which way do I go? I'm losing my mind. Somebody better catch it. I'm losing control. Stuck in this paradox of contradiction. Which way do I go? Which way I go, I'm hearing more and more. People losing their jobs and starting to lose their homes. Being put out on the streets with nothing to eat. Gotta find somewhere to sleep for their families. That's not the way it's supposed to be, the way I was raised. My mama used to tell me this was home of the slaves. Ancestors pulled from villages in shackles and chains. And ever since then the village ain't been the same. After 400 years, nothing has changed. Land of the free and home of the brave. Where poor folks living off a minimum wage. And COVID killing us on a larger stage. I'm losing my mind, somebody better catch it. I'm losing control. Stuck in this paradox of contradiction. Which way do I go? I'm losing my mind, somebody better catch it. I'm losing control. Stuck in this paradox of contradiction. Which way do I go? No guy's in control. I gotta let this feeling go. The government's wrong. They keep on feeding us the same old song. Lord, every night I pray. Every day a miracle comes our way. How can we move on with everything that's going on? The village used to be a little more in control. Didn't have to worry about running around locking doors. A village ate together, stayed together, came out strong until Frost teacher came in and divided homes. I'm losing my mind, somebody better catch it. I'm losing control. Stuck in this paradox of contradiction. Which way do I go? I'm losing my mind, somebody better catch it. I'm losing control. Stuck in this paradox of contradiction. Which way do I go? Which way do I go? Which way do I go? I'm losing my mind, somebody better catch it. I'm losing control. Stuck in this paradox of contradiction. Which way do I go? I'm losing my mind, somebody
Somebody better catch it. I'm losing control. Stepped in this paradox of contradiction. Which way do I go? Contradiction. Which way do I go? Contradiction. Which way do I go?
Wow, I was jamming. I was having my little group. If you could have seen me, Antonio, I was giving my little boogie on. I was like, I like that. Now, the first question that came to mind from someone like me who has been laid off 8 times is, was that a true story?
Well, I've been blessed. I have been blessed to, have job security, but I've been around many, that wasn't as fortunate. And like I say, growing up the way that we grew up and growing up, are still growing. That's why I'm saying growing up, still growing. You see things and you really understand what you have taken for granted. And you see things that people are going through. I don't know, here we had like some homeless camps. And these camps, I'm talking about tents, homeless people. And you really think, and this is during 2020, and you really start to think like, man, people are losing their jobs. People are struggling. Now, like me, myself, I work, I've been fortunate. I haven't gotten any bailouts, and I want to say that I ain't got no bailouts, and I'm not looking for any bailouts. I can say by the way I was raised by my grandmama. She taught me, and my mom and my dad taught me. You gonna have to do. So no matter what it is, you still need to do for self. So, but going through these last few years and just seeing how people have been, displaced and losing jobs, and seeing how the homeless is the population is growing, it bothered me. And then to top it off, then we have the COVID, and we have all of the politics. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
So which way did he go? That's what I wanted to know. I was waiting for the answer. Which way did he go, George? Which way did he go?
You go, for example, I'm a talking. You got to forgive me. And I'm, like I said, I'm still a little nervous, but you could go to the bottle, start drinking, go that direction, or you could sit on the couch and say, you know what, I need to formulate me a plan and get where I want to be at.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know in this paradox which way he went, but I understand because you mentioned the homeless encampments. I live in Long Beach, California. In LA, Skid Row, homeless issue is atrocious. You get on the 710 freeway, right by the LA Aqueduct. It's rows and rows, like you said, of tents. And I think that's horrible in America. This is, to me, no matter what is ever done, it's still one of the greatest lands ever. And you have so many people who are suffering. And like I said, I was laid off 8 times. And I literally had to make the decision on which way to go. But I always felt 2 things. Number one, that God didn't bring me this far just to bring me this far, but also anything that's illegal is a lack of faith on my part. That's what I feel. That's what I told myself, that if turn into this life of crime in order to feed my kids, it shows a lack of faith in God providing. So I just kept going and kept going. But I've seen so many people who are struggling around the world.
Yeah. And let me tell you, it started to seem contagious. So,
yes.
I'm like, okay, but then then we're dealing with the COVID. Mm-hmm. That's another part of it, and the world ain't blind. The world could see, they see what's happening. They see what's going on. And I'm sure if we put about 5 of us together, all of us will have our own opinion on what, is really taking place. We all conspiracy theorists when it comes down to it.
The truth is the truth. You don't have to be, it is what it is. So
Yeah.
I don't know about conspiracies, but I know a lot of things don't add up in my book. I'm getting 2 + 2 and getting 9. So I'm like, wait a minute, how that work?
Yeah.
So it's compiling though, but with COVID, I mean, if you're already homeless and you're already having our people, our Black people who are struggling more than any other race, I'm sorry, but we have the highest levels of unemployment. Every other race, they have more wealth accumulated than our race. And so when you have COVID and a global pandemic that hits, we're going to be affected more. We already don't have enough, so it's going to be taken away from us. So at what point, again, you mentioned being in music is your passion, you love doing it, but at what point did you say, I have to do something about this? I have to use my voice, use my platform to make a difference?
Now, I have been going through a rough patch. I mean, long story short, divorce, kids moving out of state, transitioning into a new place to stay, and just have been going through a lot. I'm a person, my family, I still haven't grieved after my mom passed yet. And I still wonder when that day's gonna come. But, I had been going through a lot, and I had started thinking about things, and I thought it was gonna come then. And I had just started praying more. I was a really, really religious, person into church some years back. And I just, started praying and praying. And 2 nights in a row, I couldn't sleep. And I woke up the first night at 2:15, the second night at 2:30. I started listening to music, some beats, and just kept listening and listening. A friend came and was like, man, will you please just go to bed? You're making a lot of noise, go to bed. I was like, no. Played one beat, and then instantly the El DeBarge came to mind, and I started whistling. And my friend came out and said, do that again. And like I said, I knew it was just something that was on my heart. I live probably about, I want to say, a half a mile away from where George Floyd was actually killed at. I mean, the area where I lived at was just full throughout the rioting and everything, helicopters. I mean, so I personally, I just, I needed to do something. I tried to do community things, and sometimes you find out certain lanes ain't your lane. So I had to find my lane. I know I love music, and whenever something became heavy, I would pick up the pen and write. And that's what I did. And I just took everything and just put it in, and I thank God it worked out.
I love the song. I was jamming. I was getting my little groove on. I was like, hey, I have to play this later by myself. This is good. But you didn't just get the pen out and make the music. You created entire production. You created a video. You have everybody in the neighborhood in the video. I thought it was, and I love the little kids. Like, I'm a sucker for a little kid. You can bring me a little kid. What you want, I give it to you, So it's a production. Those family members, your neighborhood, how did all that come about?
Well, I'm about family. Anybody know me, I'm about family. I was talking to one of my friends, and they was like, well, why do you feel guilty about making that video?
You feel guilty?
I did, and I'm gonna tell you why, honestly. I'm a father of 8.
Oh, wow.
And only one of my kids was there. As a Black man in this world, and if you're doing something positive, you want your kids to see it. You want your kids to be there. You want them to be a part of it, because that's who you're doing it for, So you got to forgive me when I come to my kids, but that's who you're doing it for. You're doing it for, your lineage, your future. So I felt guilty because, when I watched it, I'm like, man, my kids wasn't there, but I got something planned.
Okay,
So,
but I want to talk about this because I agree, but often because I've done everything. I built my first website in 1994, and everything I've done was simply to take care of my kids. 25 years later, I'm doing so much more, working with the chamber, running for Senate, all of that. But it was for my kids, and my kids aren't interested or focused on any aspect of this entrepreneurial journey. That was all for them. Sometimes I think other people or the outside world sees it because to them, you're probably just dad. You're just dad. You're over here changing the world, creating incredible music, bringing people together, sending a message, but you're just dad. Do you ever feel that way?
I love being just that. Anybody will tell you, I love my kids. It's only been of recent that I haven't been around them, like I normally got all of my kids, and if my step kids, which I say are my my kids, if they want to come, they come. I don't close no doors. My kids are sisters, because I have a couple sets of kids, but their sisters, I'm dad to, because I love kids, and being a kid without a father, I made a promise. I made a promise that I would never do my kids like my biological father did, but I would always do my best to do like the man that stepped in to take on the role as my father. So I make mistakes, but I get back up and I try again, to make sure it's, a good life for him. So
nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. No parent is perfect. I remember once I was having a conversation with my cousin, and she's younger. She just like 30, and she wants to be a mom, never had any kids. She's just like, I just feel like I might mess them up or do something, and I'm like, the one thing I can tell you is that kids are resilient. The only thing that they need is love. If they have love and they have a soft place to rest and somebody they can go to, they'll be fine, So I love, like you, I love kids, but I also love when adults come in and make this world a better place for them. Too often we look at, okay, well, the kids are going to do this to the planet and they're destroying the planet. And, the millennials are just, into this or that, but we're giving them a world, we're showing them a world. And I think that's what you did with your message. You created something that was tangible that you can say, look what dad did.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm trying, I'm working hard. I'm working hard to do, like I said, my kids will be there. So they will.
Ask you this question, and it just came to me, but it's very interesting because I'm weird. I live in LA. Almost all of my friends are celebrities. One of my friends, Renette Davis, who's in the chat right now, she's a star of Diva Glamour's reality show. So she's here. So I know a lot of people. But what's interesting is when you meet them in person, they're very shy and very humble. And when you in the video, your personality to me felt like larger than life. You're up, you're dancing, and now you're sitting here fighting back tears. I just think do you feel like you put on this personality when you're making your music?
No, it's just, it's like this, there's probably only three things that'll bring me to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about my mom, talking about my kids, and, talking about my health.
Mm-hmm.
The other things I look, if I talk about God, that's inspirational, that's my uplifting. So I can't put him, into, it brings me to tears, although at times it will. But, I just, when it comes to it, I was never a person to hold back, tears. Let's just say that, so when you talk about them three things, I get sensitive. But other words, anybody else will tell you I'm a loud person, I'm all out there, and I like to enjoy, life,
Mm-hmm.
but them are the three things that have, break me, get me down, get me talking about the kids, so.
No, I think that's sweet. I think that's very sweet. But I want to talk about Minneapolis a little bit because you mentioned being
Okay.
right there in the heart of everything. And all I could do from California is just watch it on television. And the one thing that I want to know more than anything else is that so often, and I think, let's go back to Maxine Waters. I don't know if you saw Maxine Waters' comment the other day about, you did or you did not?
I did.
Okay, but there was a lot of pushback because what she was basically saying was that we need to get out there and we need to be more active. And too often what happens is a tragedy occurs and then people are in an uproar and they're in the streets and they're protesting. And then 2 months later, 4 months later, 9 months later, there's nothing. You know, what have you seen over the last year and what have you felt? Have you felt that people should do more, do less? What is the energy that's right there in the community?
I promised I wouldn't get political,
But
I want to say this.
okay, good, get political.
Maxine Waters,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we all know why that became such a big issue and a big fuss.
Because she was a Black woman?
No, you have to do something to counter what your people did.
Mm-hmm.
So when a certain person said, yeah, if something happened, y'all come back and y'all do what you want to take it this way. So now you got to take the fraction of what Maxine Waters said and try to make it big like what that person did. I find what she said, if you listen to her, you know, she wasn't saying, you know, you got to go in there, storm, take over and fight like hell. You know, like you said, she was just saying, you know, you got to. So that's what I got from that. I felt like that the other side was just trying to make that, you know, equal to what had happened on their side.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to just, like I say, not be political, but, you know, and that's all I feel that was, you know.
There were a lot of people who felt that way. But then when I looked at it, I said, first of all, I had to read what she said because the comments and the what people said she said was a lot worse than her actual statement, and just really being more active out there and really, you know, I think overall just being more consistent in what we do, because we are an emotional people. We mad today and by tomorrow we're over it. We'd have moved on to the same thing and easily distracted. So what I found interesting is that it even came into, you know, how that she's trying to affect the outcome of the case by making this statement. And it was more, they took it like it was a threat that if you don't give us the ruling that we want, we're going to do this. And I'm like, wow, what happened to free speech in America? What happened to having a conversation about what you believe is going on? That was my thoughts and my response when I read and looked into it.
So with that being said, you felt the same way I felt then, because if that's all she was saying, then why are they making such a big deal? Because their man or their person did something in the same neighborhood, but it wasn't the same. So you can't compare, you know, like they say, an apple and an orange. You just can't. That was what she was saying, wasn't telling the people to go and do something violent and take over. But that's where I feel that was going. So yeah, they were saying, okay, she was trying to, you know, cause a disturbance. But no, I just feel like people read too deep into stuff, and that was their comparison to it.
Yes, because the first initial thing that I actually read before I actually read her statement was Maxine Waters incites people to violence. That was like the blurb. And I was like, Maxine, auntie, you was, you know what I mean? Like, and I had to read it and I was like, no, that's not what she said. But, you know, it's the media, it's the news, it's the spin, it's how you get people all riled up, and it's how you get what you want. So I just find your views very interesting, that you're willing to stand on them and speak your, you know, your truth.
Yeah, well, Yeah.
Back to the original question, which was, what have you seen over the last year as far as the community and their thoughts? I'm pretty sure it got reignited after the verdict, but have you seen it in Minneapolis be completely quiet? People are still protesting. There's a lot of buzz.
Oh, there's protests almost every day. I don't know, not name, but Trey Hearn Cruz. He does a lot. There's another young lady here, Chantel Allen. These people are really active in the community, and there's another young man that's really involved named Mickey Frost. So I have people around me, to be honest. Then that's when I said earlier, I had to find my lane. I have people around me that are really doing things in the community. And when I say doing things, these things ain't just once a week. These things ain't just, twice a month or once a year. I mean, I see them pounding the ground every day. And man, much love to the three I just shouted out to, and there's a lot more. There's Miss Dora Jones, So, and the one thing that I think we have to do once again, just because we all have our agenda doesn't mean we can't work together.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that was that one being on one accord. Once we can, man, I can't wait. I pray my kids can see that one day when our village stand together as a village, and I'm not talking about with all the add-ins and everybody to add, I'm talking about just us as a village, so.
That's going to be a beautiful day. That's going to be a beautiful day, but I see it happening more and more. You have so many more successful Black people. You have so many more activists, so many more educated Black people, because people are starting to understand. And my kids are 24 and 27. And one of the things I've always told them, and it may sound simple, it may sound weird, is that you are an American. That's what you are, and you are free, and you have the same rights as any other American. You're not a 3/5 American, a 3/5 person. So I encourage them to use their voice and their rights to do what they have the God-given right to do. And that's what you're doing. You're using your gift that God gave you to make a difference in the world. And I personally think it's amazing. I think it's incredible, and I applaud you on what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome. Now, Antonio, this has been a great conversation. I have truly enjoyed it, but we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today.
Well, I just want you all to know that I do what I do because I love it. And I write the way I write because I love you, people, and without the loved ones and the people around me, I wouldn't be the person that I am. So what I would like for people to know about me is that I'm not gonna say I'm a singer. I feel like I'm just an artist because I love to sing. I love to, just make music, make that natural sound, as they say, that soothes the beast, and I look forward to doing, more music that people will enjoy. Like I said, this is something starting to be new, because you do music in the basement for so long, and like I said, they say, shut up, be quiet. And then, finally they listen, and it's a blessing. So, I'm honored, I'm as humbled as I possibly can be, because I know without my village and the people around me, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. So I'm just, and you can find me on YouTube.
Yes. What are some of the songs we checking for on YouTube?
Change to Americas. You have, of course, Paradox, the latest release. There's two other songs on there, and it kind of give you a feel of how I'm growing, in the music, where you'll find me, and then I Don't Want to Live This Way. So them are the four in my, and once again, what I try to do is always put a message in it, and I always try to give thanks to God, and regardless, I always try to put a message in, and I always try to thank God. So
I think that is beautiful. Now, Renette Davis is in the chat. She says to you, Antonio, I enjoyed this show. Keep it going, man. Music is one key of the world. So that's what Renette wanted to let you know, to definitely please keep going. Everybody, please go ahead and check out the music on YouTube or on your website. I want to thank you for being a guest on today's episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast and Podcast. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives.
Thank you, Kanisha. That's low key. That's the featured voice on the Change It to Americas. And I love you, babies. That's for my kids.
Had to get that in there. Had to get that in there. So please go ahead and share the show. We appreciate your support. If you're interested in finding out how I can assist your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on Ask Sharifah Videocast, please visit my website at AskSharifah.com. Until next time, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.